Vincent Hale had always known he was different, in the way that mattered most in a town like Astoria, Oregon, a place where the Columbia River met the Pacific in a perpetual gray churn, and secrets washed up on the shore like driftwood. At 18, he was the quiet kid in the back of Mr. Hargrove's AP Lit class, the one who sketched intricate maps of imagined cities in the margins of his notebook instead of taking notes. Astoria was a postcard of faded glory, Victorian houses clinging to foggy hills, fishing boats bobbing in the harbor, and a high school that felt more like a pressure cooker than a launch pad. Kids here grew up fast, or they broke trying. Vincent's family lived in a clapboard house on the edge of town, where his dad, a retired mill worker named Harlan, nursed beers and old grudges, and his mom, Lydia, baked pies for the church bake sale while pretending the bruises on her arms were from clumsy falls. Vincent's older sister, Mara, had escaped to Portland 2 years back, leaving him as the last thread holding the frayed family tapestry together. Elias Whitaker crashed into Vincent's life like a rogue wave during the fall of their senior year. Elias was the new transfer from Seattle, all sharp edges and easy charisma, with sun-kissed olive skin from summers at his abuelas in California, black hair cropped short and tousled like he'd just rolled out of bed, and eyes the color of storm clouds over the bay, gray-blue and unreadable. He drove a beat-up Ford pickup with a surfboard rack, even though the Oregon coast was too cold for real waves, and he wore flannel shirts unbuttoned over band tees from groups Vincent had only heard on late-night radio. Elias's dad was a commercial fisherman, out for weeks at a time, leaving his mom, Sophia, to run the house and the local taqueria with iron-fisted efficiency. Elias carried himself like he owned the fog, laughing off the whispers about being that city kid and charming his way into the starting lineup on the varsity soccer team. They met in the school library during study hall, a sanctuary of dusty shelves and fluorescent hum that Vincent claimed as his own. He was buried in a dog-eared copy of The Great Gatsby, tracing the green light across the bay with his thumb, when Elias slid into the chair opposite him, boots thudding softly on the linoleum. "You look like you're plotting a revolution," Elias said, his voice low and teasing, a smirk playing on his lips as he nodded at the notebook filled with sketches. Vincent glanced up, heat creeping up his neck. No one ever noticed him like that, not the jocks who shoved him in the halls for being the artsy fag, not the girls who giggled behind their hands. "Just escaping this dump," he muttered, closing the book a little too quickly. Elias leaned forward, elbows on the table, his scent, salt air and cedar cologne, cutting through the musty pages. "Astoria's not so bad. Got that whole Goonies vibe. You ever climb the old lighthouse trail?" Vincent shook his head, surprised at the spark of interest. "Now. Too busy dodging my dad's moods." From there, it unraveled fast, like a loose thread on a sweater. Stolen conversations in the library turned to walks along the Riverwalk after school, where the cry of gulls drowned out their laughter. Elias talked about Seattle's neon nights and the drag shows his cousin snuck him into, his voice dropping conspiratorially. Vincent confessed his dreams of architecture school in Chicago, designing buildings that touched the sky instead of rotting in the rain. They shared earbuds on the bleachers during lunch, listening to the Nationals' brooding tracks, knees brushing accidentally on purpose. The first kiss happened in that boathouse on a Saturday in October, after a pickup game in the mudslick fields behind the rec center. The sky had cracked open, and they ducked inside the abandoned structure, shaking off water like dogs. Elias's laugh echoed off the beams as he peeled off his soaked jersey, revealing the lean lines of his chest, scarred faintly from a childhood bike crash. Vincent's mouth went dry, his pulse a roar in his ears. "What?" Elias asked, catching the stare, his grin fading into something softer, searching. Vincent started, but Elias closed the distance, cupping his face with hands that still trembled from the cold. The kiss was tentative at first, lips brushing like a question, then deepening into an answer Vincent hadn't known he was starving for. It was messy, urgent, hands fumbling under hoodies, breaths hitching as they mapped each other in the half-light. For those stolen minutes, the world narrowed to the creak of wood and the warmth of skin against skin. But Astoria didn't tolerate light in its shadows. Whispers started by November, glances in the cafeteria that lingered too long, a shared jacket on a rainy commute home. Coach Riley pulled Elias aside after practice, muttering about distractions and team image, his meaty hand clapping Elias's shoulder a little too hard. At Vincent's house, Harlan's eyes narrowed over dinner one night, fork pausing mid-air. "That Whitaker boy, trouble, from what I hear." "Stick to your books, Vinny." Lydia shot Vincent a warning look, her own secrets buried deep. They adapted, because what else could they do? Notes passed in lockers, coded texts about study sessions that ended in the backseat of Elias's truck parked on forgotten logging roads. Nights when Elias's dad was at sea, Vincent would sneak over, climbing the trellis to Elias's window, where they'd lie tangled in sheets, whispering futures they couldn't yet claim. College, Elias would murmur against Vincent's collarbone, tracing patterns on his back. "We'll get out, build something real." Vincent believed him. In those moments, his heart a fragile thing expanding under Elias's touch. Winter descended like a shroud, Christmas lights twinkling mockingly against the perpetual dusk. The school dance loomed, a mandatory torture of bad pop and parental chaperones. Vincent begged off, claiming a migraine, but Elias went, because his mom insisted on fitting in. That night, alone in his room, Vincent scrolled through photos on his flip phone, blurry shots of them hiking the cliffs, Elias's arm slung casual around his shoulders for the camera. The jealousy gnawed, irrational and sharp, imagining Elias dancing with cheerleader Riley Tate, her blonde ponytail swinging like a pendulum. Elias texted at midnight, "Miss you. Dance sucks. Come over?" Vincent hesitated, then slipped out into the sleet, heart pounding as he biked the 3 miles to the Whitaker house. Sophia was at midnight mass, the place empty and warm. They collided in the hallway, coats shedding like skins, tumbling onto the couch in a frenzy of need. Elias's hands were everywhere, reverent and rough, murmuring Vincent's name like a prayer. It was their first time crossing that line, bodies learning each other in the glow of the Christmas tree, slow and sacred amid the tinsel. Afterward, wrapped in a quilt, Elias's head on Vincent's chest, the world felt conquerable. But fate, that cruel architect, had already sketched the cracks. In January, during a brutal cold snap, Harlan found the note in Vincent's jacket pocket, a scrap of paper with Elias's handwriting, "Meet me at the pier. Can't wait to hold you." The explosion was biblical, shouts rattling the windows, Harlan's fist splintering the kitchen chair. "You think you can shame this family? Parading around with that spick boy like some queer." Lydia sobbed in the corner, pleading for calm, but Vincent stood frozen, the word queer landing like a brand. He didn't go to school the next day. Elias blew up his phone, voicemails thick with worry. When Vincent finally emerged, pale and hollow-eyed, Elias cornered him in the parking lot. "What happened? Talk to me." Vincent shoved the note back at him, voice breaking. "We have to stop. My dad. He knows." Elias's face crumpled, but he nodded, pulling Vincent into a fierce hug behind the gym. "We'll figure it out. I love you." The words hung between them, a lifeline in the storm. Vincent echoed them, tasting truth on his tongue. But hiding deepened the chasm, stolen glances across classrooms, nights aching alone. Spring brought prom, and the pressure cooker hissed. Rumors swirled, fueled by jealous exes and small-town boredom. One afternoon, after soccer practice, a group of Elias's teammates cornered Vincent by the bleachers. "Stay away from Whit, freak," Tommy Hargrove snarled, shoving him into the chain-link fence. Vincent tasted blood, but the real wound was Elias's absence. He was late, held up by coach. That night, Elias showed up at Vincent's window, bruised from a practice mishap, eyes blazing. "They're idiots. Don't let them win." They made love again, defiant, but the fear had taken root, twisting like ivy. Graduation loomed, a false dawn. They planned escape, Vincent to community college in Portland, Elias to a trade school for marine mechanics. But on the eve of the ceremony, Harlan laid down the ultimatum, "You leave with that boy, you're dead to me." Vincent packed a bag anyway, heart in his throat. The cap and gown procession was a blur of forced smiles. Afterward, under the arched oaks of the school lawn, Elias slipped a silver chain into Vincent's palm, a locket with their initials etched inside. "For when we're apart. Promise you'll wear it." Vincent fastened it around his neck, the metal cool against his skin. Their goodbye kiss was a vow, hidden in the crowd's chaos. But as Vincent drove north the next morning, fog swallowing Astoria in its maw, he didn't see the truck tailing him, Tommy and his crew, drunk on spite and cheap beer. The crash was sudden, metal screeching, glass shattering, Vincent's world flipping end over end into black. Waking in the hospital was like surfacing from a riptide, Vincent's body a map of aches and the sharp tang of antiseptic burning his nostrils. Tube snaked from his arm, monitors beeping a monotonous dirge, and sunlight slanted through half-drawn blinds, painting stripes on the linoleum floor. Portland General buzzed with the controlled chaos of a city hospital, nurses in scrubs hurrying past, the distant wail of an ambulance slicing the air. His first coherent thought was Elias. Where is he? Lydia sat by the bed, her face etched with exhaustion, a styrofoam cup of coffee cooling in her hands. Vinny, she whispered when his eyes fluttered open, reaching for his hand. Thank God. Harlan wasn't there, Vincent didn't ask. The crash had been ruled a prank gone wrong, Tommy's rich daddy lawyering him out of charges, but the whispers had spread like wildfire back home. Freak accident for the freak kid. Elias arrived an hour later, slipping in like a shadow, his face ashen under the fluorescent lights. He looked wrecked, hair unkempt, flannel rumpled, eyes red-rimmed. I drove all night, he said, voice cracking as he gripped the bedrail. They told me. Jesus, Vincent. He leaned down, forehead pressing to Vincent's, a tear splashing hot on his cheek. In that moment, with Lydia stepping out for coffee, they stole a kiss, soft, trembling, laced with the terror of almost losing it all. Recovery was a slow unravel, 6 weeks of physical therapy in a borrowed apartment above a laundromat, courtesy of Mara's guilt-fueled savings. Elias visited every weekend, smuggling in contraband burgers from In-N-Out and mixtapes of indie folk that played on Vincent's ancient Discman. They'd lie on the sagging couch, Vincent's leg in a cast propped on pillows, Elias's head in his lap, fingers tracing the locket's chain. This is just a detour, Elias promised, his voice steady even as doubt flickered in his eyes. We'll make it to Chicago. You designing our skyline loft, me fixing boats on the lake. But distance bred fishers. Elias stayed in Astoria for summer work at the docks, sending money home to Sophia, who had started asking pointed questions about his friend in Portland. Mom's old school, he'd text, followed by a heart emoji. She'll come around. Vincent nodded at his screen, but the isolation gnawed, night staring at the ceiling, the city's hum a lonely symphony through the thin walls. He enrolled in online classes for his associates, sketching blueprints on napkins, but the pain meds fogged his mind, turning dreams to smoke. Fall brought change, sharp as the equinox wind. Vincent's cast came off, revealing a scarred knee that twinged with every step, a permanent reminder. He moved into a dorm at Portland Community College, a cinderblock room shared with a straight-laced engineering major named Dex, who blasted EDM and left protein shakes congealing on the desk. Elias drove down for the first weekend, their reunion ablaze in the twin bed, hands rediscovering curves, gasps muffled into pillows. I missed this, Elias breathed, mapping Vincent's ribs with his lips. Missed you. Yet the conversations edged toward the precarious. Elias's soccer buddies had drifted, Tommy's crew branding him traitor for visiting the queer cripple. Sophia found the locket's twin in his drawer, her silence heavier than screams. She wants grandkids, Elias confessed one night, staring at the rain-lashed window. Says I'm throwing my life away. Vincent's stomach twisted, but he shoved it down, pulling Elias closer. We're not throwing anything. We're building. Thanksgiving tested them. Vincent went home to Astoria, the prodigal limping back. Harlan grunted over turkey, eyes averted, but Mara arrived with her girlfriend, Jade, a tattooed barista with a buzz cut and easy laugh, diffusing the tension with stories of Portland's queer scene. Lydia hugged Vincent too tight, whispering, I'm sorry, baby. For everything. Elias joined for pie, under the guise of helping with dishes, their fingers brushing illicitly under the sink. After, in the boathouse, repaired now, a neutral ground, they reignited, the air thick with pine and memory. But as Elias drove Vincent back to the motel, headlights cutting the dark, he dropped the bomb, Coach offered me a partial ride to community college in Seaside. Soccer scholarship. It's close enough to commute. Vincent's heart stuttered. Seaside was 20 minutes from Astoria, chains, not wings. That's great, he forced out, masking the panic. Really? The lie festered through December. Texts grew sparse, Elias buried in practices, Vincent in finals. Christmas came via FedEx, a sketchbook from Elias, filled with charcoal portraits of them, stolen moments immortalized. Vincent reciprocated with a leather-bound journal, pages blank for their shared stories. But New Year's Eve, alone in the dorm while Dex partied, Vincent got the call. Elias, voice slurred from eggnog, I love you, but Mom's sick. Pancreas thing. I can't leave now. Sophia's diagnosis was stage 2, treatable but terrifying. Elias deferred college, taking double shifts at the taqueria. Vincent drove down monthly, but the visits turned clinical, hospital waiting rooms, takeout in Sophia's kitchen, stolen touches when eyes averted. This is temporary, Elias insisted, but his grip loosened, the fire banked to embers. Spring thawed the coast, but not their rift. Vincent aced his midterms, earning a spot in a transfer program to the University of Washington in Seattle, a step toward architecture, away from the pull of Astoria. He told Elias over coffee at a harbor cafe, waves lapping the pilings. It's what we dreamed, Vincent said, searching those gray-blue eyes. Elias nodded, but his smile didn't reach. Yeah. Dreamed. The goodbye that summer was a gut punch. Elias's truck idled at the Greyhound station, rain sheeting the windshield. Call me every day, Vincent demanded, pressing the locket to Elias's chest. Elias pulled him in, kiss bruising. Every hour. But as the bus pulled away, Astoria shrinking in the mirror, Vincent felt the thread snap, not clean, but frayed, unraveling. Seattle swallowed him whole, skyscrapers piercing the clouds, ferries slicing Puget Sound, a campus alive with possibility. He roomed with Theo, a theater kid from Tacoma with a lip ring and encyclopedic knowledge of drag queens. Classes challenged him, structural engineering lectures that bent his mind like rebar, and the Queer Alliance Club welcomed him with open arms, rainbows fluttering in the student union. For the first time, Vincent walked hand in hand with a date, a barista named Riley, no relation to the cheerleader, to a dive bar's open mic. But the locket burned against his skin, a talisman of what was. Elias's calls dwindled to weekly, then by dash. Mom's chemo's kicking her ass, he'd say, exhaustion lacing his words. Vincent heard the unsaid, I'm drowning. Sophia improved by fall, but Elias stayed anchored, promoted to shift manager, dating the rhythm of tides and tourists. Vincent tried not to picture it, the life Elias was building without him. Thanksgiving in Seattle, Theo's family hosted, a boisterous Italian clan in Capitol Hill, pasta steaming and wine flowing. Vincent laughed genuinely, the locket tucked under his sweater. But midnight brought a text, miss you tonight. Remember New Year's? Vincent's thumbs hovered, then typed, always. Love you. No reply came. Winter quarter brought internships, Vincent drafting elevations for a firm in Belltown, coffer-fueled nights blurring into dawn. He hooked up sporadically, bodies a distraction from the ache, but mornings left him hollow. One February evening, scrolling Instagram in a coffee shop, he froze, Elias's profile, a photo arm in arm with a girl from the taqueria, Lena, brunette and beaming, caption, beach nights with my girl. The betrayal hit like vertigo, the world tilting. Vincent's coffee spilled, scalding his hand, but he barely felt it. His girl. All those promises, eroded by time and tide. He didn't call. Didn't text. The locket went into a drawer, silver tarnished. Spring bloomed in Seattle, cherry blossoms dusting the U District like confetti, but Vincent withered, throwing himself into designs, sketches of impossible bridges spanning chasms he couldn't name. Graduation from UW loomed, a bachelor's in hand, job offers from Chicago firms whispering escape. But fate, ever the trickster, had one more card. The email arrived on a muggy June morning, as Vincent packed boxes in his off-campus apartment, the Seattle skyline mocking him through the window with its relentless gleam. Subject: Reunion, Astoria High Class of '09. 10 years since the crash, since the frayed goodbye. He almost deleted it, fingers itching over the trash icon, but curiosity, or masochism, won. RSVP list included Elias Whitaker. Of course. Vincent's life in Seattle had calcified into routine, junior architect at a mid-tier firm in Pioneer Square, drafting sustainable retrofits for aging warehouses, his days a grid of CAD files and client meetings. Evenings blurred at queer bars in Capitol Hill, where hookups were easy but connections ephemeral, a bartender named Kai with tribal tattoos, a grad student poet who quoted Auden between kisses. The locket stayed buried in a sock drawer, a relic dusted off only in whiskey-soaked regrets. Mara visited sometimes, her life with Jade a tapestry of adoption papers and PTA meetings, reminding him normalcy existed beyond survival. Astoria called like a siren song, treacherous and sweet. He booked the flight on impulse, landing in Portland under a sky bruised purple, renting a hybrid that hugged the coastal highway like an old lover. The Columbia River gleamed as he crossed the bridge, Astoria rising from the mist, same clapboard houses, same cannery ghosts. His family home stood sentinel, Harlan long since moved to assisted living after a stroke, Lydia remarried to a gentle widower named Walt who fixed clocks in the garage. The motel on the harbor was nondescript, waves lapping pilings outside his window. Check-in done, Vincent wandered the PA, salt wind whipping his hair, now longer and streaked with premature gray from stress deadlines. Fishermen hauled crates, gulls wheeling overhead. At the end, where the railing met chain link, he paused, the spot of their first public almost kiss, thwarted by a passing patrol car. The reunion was at the Elks Lodge, balloons sagging in the humidity, a playlist of 2000s hits thumping from speakers. Vincent arrived late, button-down crisp but untucked, slacks hugging his frame softened by desk life. Faces blurred, Riley Tate, now a realtor with Botox-smooth skin, air-kissing his cheek, Dex from college, balding and beaming with tales of Silicon Valley. Tommy Hargrove loomed in the corner, beer gut straining his polo, avoiding Vincent's gaze, the crasher skeleton they all pretended buried. Elias entered like a thunderclap, mid-conversation with a cluster of ex-jarks, his laugh carrying over the din time had honed him, broader shoulders from dock work, hair threaded silver at the temples, a neatly trimmed beard framing that familiar jaw. He wore chinos and a Henley, sleeves rolled to elbows tanned from summer charters. Their eyes locked across the room, the air thickening, conversations fading to static. Vincent turned to the bar, ordering a bourbon neat, the burn steadying his pulse. Footsteps approached, and there he was, Elias, close enough to touch, cologne unchanged, cedar and sea. "Vin," he said, voice rough as gravel. "You came." Curiosity killed the cat, Vincent replied, forcing levity, but his hand trembled on the glass. Elias's eyes, still those storm clouds, flickered with something raw, unguarded. They talked in fits, orbiting the crowd like planets wary of collision. Elias ran a charter boat now, Whitaker waves, taking tourists whale-watching, his life moored in Astoria. Sophia had beaten cancer, Lena was his wife of 5 years, no kids yet, but talking about it. The words landed like hooks, Vincent nodding through the pain, sharing snippets of Seattle, promotions, a loft in Fremont with a view of the Space Needle. Midnight brought slow dances, the gym floor waxed for nostalgia. A Springsteen track crooned, Thunder Road, and Elias extended a hand, casual as breath. For old times. Vincent hesitated, then accepted, the touch electric, palm to palm. They swayed on the edge of the floor, bodies inches apart, the room a haze of swaying silhouettes. "You look good," Elias murmured, breath warm on Vincent's ear. "Happy?" "Surviving," Vincent said, honest in the dark. Elias's thumb brushed his wrist, a ghost of memory, and Vincent pulled away first, heart hammering. "Congrats on the wife." "She here?" Elias's face shadowed. "Now." "Flew." A lie, Vincent sensed, but he let it lie. Outside, under sodium lamps, the air cooled. They walked the harbor path, gravel crunching, waves whispering indictments. I saw the pictures, Vincent blurted, stopping by the railing. With Lena. After Seattle. Elias winced, leaning on the rail, forearms corded. It was a mistake. Mom pushed, town talked. I thought. Stability. But it was fear, VIN. Hiding again. Vincent's laugh was bitter, wind-tossed. We were kids. Scared makes sense. But you promised. The locket, he'd worn it tonight, hidden under shirt, now a weight pulling at his chain. Elias reached out, fingers grazing the metal. I broke everything. His voice cracked, and he closed the gap, forehead to Vincent's, breath sinking. The kiss ignited slow, tentative, then consuming, hands fisting shirts, tongues tasting lost years, the harbor fading. Vincent broke it, gasping. You're married. I know. Elias stepped back, eyes glistening. But God, I never stopped. Vincent fled to the motel, door slamming, stripping to boxers and collapsing on the bed. Sleep evaded, replaying the salt of Elias's lips, the ache of what ifs. Dawn brought a knock, Elias, disheveled, holding coffee. We need to talk. They did, for hours, cross-legged on the scratchy comforter. Elias confessed, Lena knew, from the start, an open secret, their marriage a compromise, bed a battlefield. She's filing. Has been for months. I came back for you. Vincent listened, walls crumbling, the boy from the boathouse resurfacing in the man. By noon, they drove to the cliffs, truck bumping dirt roads to a overlook where Douglas firs framed the endless Pacific. Picnic from the taqueria, burritos and horchata, spread on a blanket, they ate in companionable silence, then talked, regrets unpacked like old photos. Vincent admitted the hookups, the numbness, Elias the night staring at the ceiling, Lena's sobs echoing his own. Sun dipped low, painting the waves gold, when Elias pulled Vincent down, kisses trailing collarbone, hands reverent on scars. They made love there, urgent and unhurried, bodies remembering rhythms, cries swallowed by wind. After, tangled and sated, Elias traced Vincent's jaw. Come back with me. We start over. Vincent's heart soared, then plummeted. My job. Life's in Seattle. But the pull was magnetic, Astoria's fog wrapping tendrils. The weekend blurred, dinners with Lydia and Walt, who eyed Elias warily but warmly, a bonfire on the beach with Mara and Jade, stories flowing like tide. Sunday night, as Elias's truck idled at the airport shuttle, Vincent hesitated. 1 month, he proposed. I tie up loose ends. Then I come home. Elias grinned, that old rogue wave smile. Deal. The kiss goodbye was promise sealed, Vincent boarding the plane with wings on his heels. Seattle greeted him with rain-slick streets, but the city felt smaller, a way station. He resigned, giving notice, packing the loft with Theo's help, tears and toasts over IPAs. You're glowing, man, Theo said, hugging him fierce. Don't fuck it up. July 4th weekend, Vincent drove south, fireworks bursting over the river as he crossed into Astoria. Elias waited at the PA, boat tied up, a sign, welcome home, architect. They sailed into dusk, hands linked, the horizon swallowing the sun. But fate's plans twisted sharper. August brought Lena's final papers, contested, ugly, her lawyer citing emotional infidelity. Whispers reignited, Whitaker's queer after all. Tommy Hargrove, now a cop, pulled Elias over for a routine check, smirk sharp as cuffs. Vincent stood firm, but cracks spidered, job offers in Astoria scarce, his designs gathering dust. Elias withdrew, shifts doubling to pay alimony, nights collapsing exhausted. It's temporary, he echoed old lines, but doubt seeded. September storm hit literal and figurative, gales ripping roofs, Vincent's knee flaring old pain. In the boathouse, refuge renewed, Elias snapped during an argument over money. You think it's easy? This town's killing me, and now you're here, dragging it all up. Vincent reeled, words knives. Dragging? I came for us. The door slammed, Elias gone into the gale. Vincent sat in dark, rain drumming, the locket cold. Morning brought silence, no texts, no calls. Desperate, he drove to the Whitaker house, Sophia answering, face lined. He's at the bar. And VIN. Be gentle. He's lost. The tavern hummed with locals, pool cues cracking. Elias hunched at the counter, shots lined up. Go home, Vincent. Slurred, final. I am home. Vincent slid beside him, hand on arm. Elias shrugged it off. Not anymore. The fight spilled out, ears compressed, fear, compromise, the crash's echo. You left me then, Elias accused. Chose Seattle over fighting. I chose survival. Vincent shouted, heads turning. For us. Elias stood, swaying. There is no us. He walked out, leaving Vincent shattered amid stares. Autumn in Astoria turned the hills to amber and rust, leaves skittering like accusations across Vincent's windshield as he drove aimlessly, the truck's wipers batting futile at the drizzle. Elias's words echoed, there is no us, a gutting finality that looped in his mind, louder than the engine's rumble. He ended up at the lighthouse trail, parking crookedly and hiking the mudslick path, breath ragged, knee protesting each step. At the summit, wind howling off the Pacific, he screamed into the void, fists clenched until knuckles whitened. The ocean swallowed it whole, indifferent. Back in the rental, a cramped studio above the hardware store, sublet from a seasonal artist, Vincent unpacked boxes mechanically, each item a barb, the sketchbook Elias filled, now dog-eared, a conch shell from their first beach walk, ridged and salt-crusted. Sleep came fitful, dreams of crashes and chartering boats adrift. Mornings brought coffee at the taqueria, avoiding Sophia's pitying eyes, her mihijo is stubborn, but he loves deep. Work was a patchwork, freelance drafting for a Portland firm, remote hours hunched over his laptop in the diner's corner booth, blueberry pancakes congealing as he zoned into elevations. The town noticed his return, gossip a currency traded at the post office. Hail boys back for Whitaker? After all this time. Riley Tate, realtor extraordinaire, cornered him at the grocery, basket laden with organics. Honey, if you need a listener, call. We've all got histories. Vincent smiled tight, escaping with consoup. Nights, he wandered the harbor, sketching wharves by streetlight, the locket resurfacing around his neck like a dare. One evening, Mara called from Portland, voice sharp. Jade says you look like hell. What's the mess? He spilled it, the reunion, the fire, the douse. Go back to Seattle, she advised. Heal away from the ghosts. But roots delve deep. October brought the Harvest Festival, bonfires and cider, and Vincent went alone, flannel blending with the crowd. Laughter rang hollow, but then, Elias, across the field, arm around Lena? No, a cousin, but the sight twisted the knife. Their eyes met, Elias paling, but he turned away, vanishing into the throng. The confrontation came unbidden, a week later at the docks. Vincent, delivering prints to a contractor, spotted the charter boat rocking gently. Elias emerged from the hold, all-streaked, hauling rope. We need to talk, Vincent called, voice steady despite the quake. Elias straightened, wiping hands on jeans. Nothing left to say. But his eyes betrayed, haunted, hungry. Vincent boarded uninvited, the deck swaying underfoot. You don't get to decide that. Not after pulling me here. Words tumbled, hurt laid bare, the bar fight dissected. Elias leaned against the mast, arms crossed. I panicked. Lena suing for the boat, half the house. Town's closing in, Tommy's badge means harassment. I knew. You remind me of who I was before I buried him. Vincent stepped closer, the space electric. Then dig him up. With me. Elias's resolve cracked, hand rising to cup Vincent's cheek, thumb brushing lip. The kiss was inevitable, salt and regret, deepening until they broke for air, foreheads pressed. I can't lose everything, Elias whispered. You won't. Vincent's promise, fierce. They parted with a plan, a therapy, separate but not severed. Elias started with a counselor in Warrenton, Sophia's reluctant blessing. Vincent joined a writer's group at the library, channeling ache into stories. November's grey deepened, but glimmers pierced. Joint walks along the river, hands brushing shy, dinners at Lydia's, Walt's clock ticking calm a buffer. One night, snow flurrying rare and magic, they ended in Elias's apartment, post-divorce sparse, boxes stacked. No rush, just exploration, fingers tracing laugh lines, mouths learning anew. Slow, Elias murmured, guiding Vincent's hand. Tenderness rebuilt trust, brick by brick. But betrayal's shadow lingered. December unearthed it. Lena's lawyer subpoenaed old texts, evidence of infidelity dragging their high school ghosts into court. Headlines in the local rag, local businessman in scandalous affair, splashed Elias's face, Tommy grinning in the background. Clients cancelled charters, Sophia's taqueria boycotted by bigots. Elias spiraled, bottles emptying faster. See? This town eats its own. Vincent found him at the bar again, head down. Fight it, he urged, dragging him home. But the next day, Elias vanished, truck gone, phone off. Panic clawed Vincent, calls to Sophia yielded shrugs, he needed space. Days blurred to a week, Vincent pacing the studio, sketches abandoned. Mara drove down, Jade in tow, staging an intervention of soup and straight talk. Go get him, Jade said, pragmatic. Or let go. Vincent chose pursuit, tracing Elias's habits, the old logging road, truck tracks fresh in mud. He found him there, campfire sputtering, face haggard. I couldn't breathe, Elias admitted, poking embers. Everything closing in, divorce, the paper, you expecting perfection. Vincent sat beside him, sharing the blanket. I expect us. Messy, real. They talked till dawn, vulnerabilities bared, Elias's fear of fatherhood mirroring Harlan's rage, Vincent's crash nightmares, waking sweat-soaked. Dawn brought resolve, Elias returning, divorce pushed through, a joint bank account seeded with savings. Winter solstice, they hosted a small Yule, Lydia, Walt, Sophia, Mara, and Jade around a tree strung with shells. Laughter tentative, then free. That night, in Elias's bed, they claimed each other fully, slow builds to shattering releases, afterglow whispers of forever. Spring teased green shoots, Vincent landing a gig designing the town's eco-resort, Elias's boat rechristened with queer-friendly tours. But crisis brewed subtle, Vincent's knee swelled, an old fracture rebelling, doctor's orders for surgery. I'll be there, Elias vowed, but his eyes shadowed, charters peaking, finances tight. The operation in Portland was textbook, but recovery chained Vincent to crutches, isolation amplifying doubts. Elias visited, but exhaustion etched him, late nights reconciling books. One argument erupted over unpaid bills, you're retreating again. Vincent accused. Elias stormed out, I can't be your savior. Alone, Vincent confronted the mirror, pale, propped, the boy who once sketched escapes now trapped by choice. Mara checked in, love's work, not magic. He nodded, but the locket felt like a noose. Elias returned contrite, flowers wilting in hand. I'm scared. Of failing you. Vincent pulled him down, crutches clattering. We're failing together. Reconciliation was raw, arguments turning to make up sex, fierce and forgiving. Summer swelled, the resort groundbreaking a triumph, Vincent's designs lauded. They vacationed in Seattle, Theo hosting, nights on the town hand in hand. But fate's pen hovered, a letter from Chicago, a dream firm offering lead architect. Go, Elias said, voice steady. I'll follow. Vincent wavered, Astoria's Pool versus Skyline Dreams. Us first. They deferred, building local, a commitment ceremony planned, rings simple silver bands etched with waves. Yet betrayal's echo resounded in July, Tommy, emboldened, leaked high school photos online, blurry kiss from the boathouse, captioned vitriol. Backlash swift, Elias's boat vandalized, tires slashed, Vincent's inbox hate mail. Leave, Mara urged again. But they stood, filing complaints, community rallying, Sophia's loyalists, Riley's network. August storm mirrored their turmoil, power out, huddled by candlelight. "We weather this," Elias said, holding Vincent through thunder. Dawn cleared skies, resolve hardened. Full harvest brought harvest of self, therapy deepening bonds, vulnerabilities shared. Vincent's knee healed stronger, designs bolder. One crisp evening, cliffs overlook, Elias knelt, not proposal, but vow renewal. "Fate dragged us, but we choose now." Vincent's yes was thunder. The Vandal's spray paint gleamed wet under the dock lights, fags scrawled in dripping red across the Whitaker Wave's hull, shards of shattered porthole glass crunching under Vincent's boots as he arrived at dawn. Elias stood frozen, fists balled, face a mask of fury and defeat, the harbor's morning hush amplifying his ragged breath. "Tommy," he growled, kicking a pebble into the water. Vincent pulled him into a hug, spine rigid under his palms, whispering, "We'll clean it. Report it. Not let it win." But the crisis cascaded, a domino of small sabotages, booking cancellations, whispered moral concerns, a brick through the taqueria window shattering Sophia's prized Virgin Mary. The town fractured, old allies like Walt organizing a cleanup crew, but bigots bolder, flyers tacked to poles, "Protect our youth from deviance." Vincent's freelance dried up, emails icing over, Elias's charters halved, forcing him to pawn tools for mortgage. Nights turned vigilant, doors double-locked, sleep fractured by creaks. Vincent woke from nightmares of the crash, Elias from dreams of drowning, their bodies seeking solace in fevered embraces, sex a bulwark against unraveling. "We're stronger," Vincent murmured post-climax, tracing Elias's ribs, but doubt gnawed, a rat in the walls. Mara arrived mid-September, Jade's minivan stuffed with groceries and grief books. "This isn't healing, it's siege." Over tea at Lydia's, they plotted, Vincent applying to Seattle firms anew, Elias considering Sophia's offer to co-run the taqueria inland. "Space to breathe," Mara said, but Vincent's gut twisted, running felt like surrender. Elias overheard, confrontation igniting in the kitchen, steam from pasta pot veiling their faces. "You're pushing me away again," Vincent accused, spoon clattering. Elias's eyes flashed. "Pushing? I'm drowning, VIN. Boats bleeding money, towns turning. You waltz in with designs and dreams. Those dreams include you." Vincent shouted, voice breaking. Elias deflated, sinking to a chair. "I know. But what if I can't?" The vulnerability cracked him open, confession spilling, therapy unearthed buried shame, high school slurs festering like untreated wounds. Vincent knelt, hands on knees. "Then we dig together." October's full moon brought a turning, community vigil at the harbor, lanterns floating on water, locals voicing support, Riley reading a statement, Walt's clocks chiming solidarity. Tommy was suspended, investigation pending. Hope flickered, but fragile. Then, betrayal's cruelest cut, Elias's phone buzzed during a rare date night at the cliffs, Lena's name flashing. Vincent glimpsed the text before Elias snatched it, "Tell him the truth, or I will." For closure. Elias paled, shoving the phone away. "Old shit. Ignore." But Vincent couldn't, the seed planted. Days later, digging for tax docs in Elias's desk, he found letters, Lena's handwriting, post-divorce pleas, "I knew about him since high school. You chose wrong." And tucked beneath, a photo, Elias and Vincent, prom night, stolen from yearbook, annotated "the boy who broke you." Confrontation exploded that evening, rain lashing windows as Vincent waved the evidence. "You kept this? Why?" Elias snatched it, face crumpling. "She sent them. Therapy homework, face the past." But Vincent saw red, "Or remind us why you settled." Elias roared back, "Settled? I'm married to survive, same as you hid in Seattle." The words landed like fists, Vincent storming out into the deluge, biking to the motel in sodden fury. He crashed with Riley, her couch a temporary raft, sobbing through the night. He lied by omission, he choked. Riley held him, or protected. "Talk." Dawn brought clarity, Vincent returning soaked, key turning in lock. Elias waited, eyes bloodshot, divorce box unpacked, Lena's things sorted, photo burned in ashtray. I should have told you. Feared it'd push you away. Vincent collapsed beside him, exhaustion bonding them. It almost did. But we're past hiding. Reconciliation was excavation, couples therapy in Portland, sessions raw as open wounds. Elias admitted codependency roots in Sophia's illness, Vincent his savior complex from Harlan's home. Progress measured in small trusts, shared passwords, weekly check-ins. November election shifted tides, progressive councilwoman ousting Tommy's ally, hate crime ordinance passing. Charters trickled back, Vincent consulting for the resort, his adaptive designs, wheelchair ramps echoing his scars, earning acclaim. Winter solstice ceremony, backyard affair, fir boughs and sea glass, rings exchanged under stars. Vows personal, I choose your storms, Elias said, I build bridges over chasms, Vincent replied. Guests few but fierce, families, Theo flown in, Jade officiating with wry poetry. Post-vow bliss, honeymoon road trip to Montana's plains, endless skies healing tight chests. They hiked glacier, hands linked, Elias's laugh free. Back home, life normalized, Elias expanding tours to queer retreats, Vincent's firm remote, loft sketches for a home edition. But crisis crested subtle, Vincent's Chicago offer resurfaced, now with relocation package. Over dinner, salmon from the docks, he broached it. Lead role. Our future funded. Elias's fork paused, smile strained. An Astoria? Debate simmered weeks, roots versus reach, love versus ambition. December storm raged, power flickering, forcing decision. Huddled by fireplace, Elias conceded, go. I'll bridge the gap, boat sails, online charters. Vincent's relief soured to guilt. We go together. Compromise, Vincent accepts, Elias preps move. Packing commenced, boxes labeled Chicago Dreams. January's ice locked the harbor, mirroring frozen fears. Elias's goodbye to Sophia tearful, her blessing hard-won, be happy, mijo. That's all I want. Drive east began, truck loaded, Vincent's hand on Elias's thigh. But fate intervened en route, blizzard in Idaho, stranded in a Coeur d'Alene motel, snow burying the lot. Confined, tensions erupted, Elias accusing Vincent of uprooting for ego, Vincent retorting Elias's reluctance masked fear. You're running from commitment. Elias yelled. From me. Words weapons, they slept back to back. Morning cleared roads and air, apologies over diner hash, truths aired. I'm terrified of failing in a city that doesn't need saving, Elias confessed. Vincent nodded, and I'm scared you'll resent the pull. Renewed, they pressed on, Chicago's lights welcoming. Chicago's wind howled off Lake Michigan like a scorned lover, slicing through Vincent's coat as he stood on the balcony of their Lakeview apartment, the city sprawl glittering below, a mosaic of steel and neon that both thrilled and dwarfed him. It was March, 3 months into the relocation, and the high of arrival had curdled into quiet desperation. Elias leaned against the railing beside him, breath fogging the chill air, a beer bottle dangling from his fingers. It's beautiful, he said, voice flat, eyes on the distant loop. Vincent heard the unsaid, but it's not home. The move had started with promise, Vincent's firm, Apex Structures, a glass tower in the West Loop, where he led a team retrofitting South Side brownstones into affordable lofts, work that married his passions for equity and design. Days blurred in meetings and site visits, his knee brace a minor nuisance amid the adrenaline. Elias, unmoored, had sold the boat sight unseen, funneling proceeds into a food truck venture, Pacific Fusion, tacos with an Oregon twist, parked at farmers' markets and festivals. The city pulsed around them, diverse, relentless, queer couples strolling hand-in-hand without side-eye, pride flags fluttering year-round. But cracks spiderwebbed fast. Elias's truck sat idle too often, permits snarled in bureaucracy, winters too brutal for outdoor sales. Nights, he'd pace the loft, exposed brick and reclaimed wood Vincent had sourced, muttering about ghost customers and missing the tide's rhythm. Vincent, buried in deadlines, came home to take out and silence. Their touch is obligatory, sparks dim to embers. April thawed the lakefront, but not their rift. Therapy via Zoom with their Portland counselor helped unpack the transplant shock, Elias grieving Astoria's simplicity, Vincent chasing validation in blueprints. Culture clash, the therapist noted. Give it grace. They tried date nights at Andersonville's queer bistros, walks along the 312, urban trail, even a drag brunch where Elias cracked up at Vincent's lip-sync to share. Sex reignited sporadically, bodies reconnecting in the king bed overlooking the L tracks, but mornings brought hangovers of unspoken resentments. Crisis ignited over a misplaced check. Elias's first big catering gig, a corporate lunch, bounced due to Vincent's forgotten deposit. You handle the numbers, Elias snapped, crumpling the notice. Vincent, fresh from a pitch win, bristled. I'm building our life here. Help or what? Bail like Seattle. Elias hurled, the barb from years past. Vincent recoiled, storming to the balcony, door slamming. Hours later, Elias apologized with carnitors from the truck, but the wound suppurated. May's warmth brought blooms to Grant Park, and with it, opportunity. Vincent's project earned a Windy City Award nomination, spotlighting him for a TEDx talk. Elias beamed at the gala, rented Tuck's crisp, but whispers followed, who's the husband? Fisherman type. Elias overheard, smile fracturing. That night, champagne soured, he confessed over nightcaps, I feel like your arm candy. Out of depth. Vincent pulled him close, kisses trailing neck. You're my anchor. Lovemaking followed, tender, but dawn's light revealed the lie, they were drifting. Betrayal brewed insidious, Elias's late nights networking at Wicker Park bars, Vincent's suspicions fanned by cologne traces not his own. One June evening, returning early from a site, Vincent found the loft empty, Elias's phone buzzing on the counter, text from Jax, last night was fire. Round 3? Heart plummeting, Vincent scrolled history, flirtations, meetups, a hookup app icon buried in folders. Confrontation waited till Elias stumbled in at 2 a.m., tipsy and tousled. Who's Jax? Vincent demanded, phone thrust forward. Elias froze, color draining. A mistake. Loneliness hit hard. Thought it meant nothing. Nothing? Vincent's voice shattered glass. After everything, the hiding, the storms, we're here, and you fuck around. Elias crumpled to the couch, head in hands. I felt invisible. Your world swallows me. The fight raged till sunrise, accusations flying, Vincent packing a bag for Mara's couch in Portland, need space to think. Elias begged, don't run. Fight for us. But Vincent left, train rattling west, tears blurring the plains. Portland welcomed with rain and Mara's hug, Jade brewing tea strong as resolve. Cheats a breach, Mara said, but fixable if both want. Vincent journaled fury, therapy solo now, unearthing his role, the ambition blinding him to Elias's isolation, high school patterns repeating, pushing when pulled. Weeks passed in emails, Elias shuttering the truck, enrolling in online business courses, Vincent sketching alone, designs infused with loss. A care package arrived, conch shell polished, locket chain repaired. Note, anchors drag if not shared. Come back. Or let go clean. Vincent chose return, July 4th weekend, Chicago's fireworks a metaphor. Airport reunion awkward, hug stiff, but Elias's eyes held hope. I quit the app. Full transparency. Rebuilding began, app blockers, weekly State of Us dinners, Elias job hunting at a maritime museum, leveraging sea knowledge for exhibits. August heatwave tested, power out, loft sauna, tempers flaring over fans. But they laughed through it, skinny dipping in the lake at midnight, bodies buoyant. Sex evolved, exploratory, toys ordered discreetly, Elias topping for the first time, vulnerability a gift. Fall foliage painted the suburbs gold, Vincent's TEDx a triumph, talk on a designing belonging, Elias in front row, applause shared. Post-event high, loft party with firm colleagues, Elias charming, Vincent beaming. But whispers lingered, a colleague's hand too lingering on Elias's arm, jealousy Vincent quashed. Crisis crested in October, Elias's course final, a business plan for a coastal consultancy, but Vincent's promotion demanded travel, New York, 2 weeks. Go, Elias urged, but anxiety shadowed. Alone, Elias relapsed, bar pickup, guilt-crashing post-haste text confession. Vincent, mid-Manhattan, read it on the subway, world blurring. Call was terse, again. Elias sobbed, triggers. City amplifies. Vincent cut trip short, returning to a hollowed Elias, therapy emergency. Rock bottom, joint session virtual, truths flayed. Elias's pattern, self-sabotage from abandonment fears, Vincent's control as armor from Harlan. Heal separately, therapist advised. Vincent to a cabin in Wisconsin Dells, Elias to Astoria for Sophia's birthday. Vincent's solitude, hikes through hardwood forests, sketches of imagined homes, yours, ours, none. Letters penned but unsent, emotions distilled. Elias's visit home, waves of nostalgia, Sophia's counsel, love's not harbor, it's horizon. Reunion Thanksgiving, Chicago Airport, hugs melting reservations. I missed your chaos, Vincent said. Elias grinned, and your bossy sketches. Healing accelerated, couples retreat in the Berkshires, November chill, workshops on intimacy. Exercises raw, eye-gazing till tears, body mapping sans expectation. Nights, fireside, they rebuilt touch, massages evolving to mutual pleasure, trust tactile. December brought snow, and stability, Elias hired at the museum, curating Tides of Change exhibit, Vincent mentoring interns, work-life fenced. Holiday with families virtual, Lydia's pie via mail, Sophia's tamales FedEx, laughter bridging miles. New Year's Eve, rooftop under stars, champagne flutes clinking. To fates rewritten, Elias toasted. Kiss sealed, future sketched. Yet one shadow, Vincent's knee MRI, arthritis early, surgery looming. We'll navigate, Elias vowed, hand in hand. January's deep freeze gripped Chicago like a vice, ice sheathing the lakefront paths where Vincent and Elias walked bundled against the gale, scarves whipping, laughter punctuating gusts as they dodged snowdrifts. Vincent's knee throbbed under the brace, but Elias's arm anchored him, steady as the lighthouse beam they both missed. The surgery loomed in February, arthroscopic, outpatient, but the vulnerability terrified Vincent more than the scalpel. What if it changes us, he confessed one night, loft him with candlelight, Elias's fingers kneading his calf. Elias's eyes, soft in the flicker, met his. Changes are the tide, VIN. We rise with them. The museum exhibit had launched to acclaim, Tides of Change, blending Astoria lore with queer narratives, Elias's narration voice steady on the audio tour. Patrons lingered, stories shared, a teen coming out, inspired. Elias glowed in it, the city finally fitting his frame. Recovery was Vincent's crucible, hospital discharge to the loft, crutches clattering on hardwood, Elias hovering with broth and bad jokes. Pain meds fogged days, nights sweat-soaked, but Elias read aloud, Gatsby revisited, green light now their skyline. Remember the boathouse, he'd murmur, spooning against Vincent's back. Intimacy adapted, oral explorations, hands inventive, pleasure a bridge over discomfort. Spring unfurled tentative, cherry blossoms defiant in the wind. Vincent's rehab was grueling, pool therapy at the Y, Elias timing laps, cheers echoing off tiles. Setbacks came, a slipped step, flare-up confining him to bed, frustration boiling. Useless, Vincent snarled, tossing the brace. Elias knelt, unflinching. Essential. To me. The argument diffused into tears, makeup slow, unaffirming, Elias's mouth worshipful, Vincent's gasps affirmations. April brought bloom, Vincent returning to work part-time, designs infused with resilience, adaptive architecture for aging in place. Elias's consultancy side gig took off, virtual advising for coastal startups, Astoria calls a lifeline. They hosted Mara's visit, Jade wrangling the niece and nephew now, chaos joyful, kids finger-painting Vincent's blueprints, Elias grilling brats on the balcony. But fate's final twist uncoiled in May, a letter from Harlan, forwarded from Oregon, handwriting shaky. Cancer. Stage 4. Come if you can. Dad. Vincent stared, envelope trembling, the man who branded him now frail ink on paper. Elias read over shoulder, hand squeezing. Your call. I'm with you. The drive west was a pilgrimage, truck humming interstates, podcasts on forgiveness buffering silence. Astoria greeted unchanged, fog veiling the prodigal. Harlan's hospice room smelled of wilted flowers, his frame shrunken in the bed, eyes, hazel like Vincent's, flickering recognition. Son, he rasped, voice gravel. No apology flowed, just halting stories, mill youth, Lydia's laugh lost, regrets unspoken but etched in wrinkles. Vincent sat daily, Elias in the hall, holding space. One afternoon, Harlan gripped his hand. I was wrong. About you. About love. Tears tracked his cheeks. Vincent nodded, throat tight. I forgive you, Dad. The words freed something ancient, chains dissolving. Harlan passed a week later, burial simple at the cliffs, family scattering ashes to waves. Vincent stood with Elias, arm-linked, grief a tide receding. Human, he whispered. Elias kissed his temple. Always was. Summer solstice, back in Chicago, they renewed rings at a lakeside ceremony, Theo Deejing, Riley flown in as witness, vows evolved, through crashes and calms. Honeymoon redux, Seattle detour, Theo's loft crash pad, then Astoria layover, Sophia's feast a blessing. Fall deepened bonds, Vincent's promotion to senior architect, Elias's exhibit touring Milwaukee. Challenges lingered, Elias's seasonal blues, Vincent's flare-ups, but tools sharpened, date jars with prompts, therapy check-ins monthly. November elections, national tempests, but locally, pride swelled, museum gala raising funds for youth shelters. Elias spoke, voice carrying, love hit us once. Now it lights the way. Winter's Eve, solstice again, they danced in the loft to Springsteen, slow sway under string lights. Fate had plans, Vincent murmured, cheek to Elias's. But we wrote the ending. Elias smiled, that rogue wave grin. Our story. Human, whole. Years folded forward, Vincent's firm pioneering green queer spaces, Elias authoring a memoir, Tides and Truths, bestseller in niche circles. They adopted a rescue dog, Max, mud with Elias's eyes, Mara and Jade's kids visited, uncles doting. Astoria trips annual, lighthouse hikes tradition. In quiet moments, dawn coffee, balcony sunsets, Vincent traced the locket, now dual-chained with Elias's. No more hiding. Just love, earned through storms, blooming in light. Humanity's grace, not perfection, but persistence. In choosing each other, daily, they found the truest design.